Betrayal in the Galactic Council. The glittering spires of New Geneva pierced the sky, their surfaces shimmering like diamonds under the planet's twin suns. This was humanity's crown jewel, a testament to their progress since becoming a member of the Galactic Council. For decades, Earth had toiled tirelessly to prove its worth among the advanced species of the galaxy, earning its seat on the Council through ingenuity, resilience, and sheer determination. But Ambassador Ilara Solis, standing in her expansive office overlooking the city, felt none of the pride such a view usually inspired. Instead, she felt an icy dread clutching at her chest. The notification chime of her neural implant disrupted the silence, signaling the arrival of an encrypted message. Ilara's heart quickened as she accessed the data package. It came from her most trusted informant, a shadowy figure who had risked everything to reveal the Council's secrets. As the information unfolded in her mind, her breath caught. The Galactic Council, the interstellar organization that humanity had trusted for decades, was planning its ultimate betrayal. In secret meetings, they had struck a deal with the Torvan Empire, a ruthless, expansionist regime known for enslaving entire planets. In exchange for their own safety, the Council had agreed to surrender human-controlled territories, effectively condemning billions to death or subjugation. Ilara's hands trembled, her reflection in the office window ghostly pale against the backdrop of New Geneva's brilliance. Her voice was barely steady as she addressed her AI assistant. Verify data authenticity. Data verified with 99.9% accuracy, the AI responded. Ilara's jaw tightened. She had trusted the Council, fought for humanity's inclusion, and worked tirelessly to foster alliances. And now, they had sold humanity out. There was no time to dwell on the betrayal. Action was needed, and fast. She turned to her desk and activated a secure line to Earth's Defense Command. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the grim faces of high-ranking officials. This is Ambassador Solis. Authorization code Theta 97 Echo. We have a code black situation. The Galactic Council is compromised. Prepare for immediate evacuation of all off-world personnel and initiate Protocol Hammerfall. The response was swift. Understood, Ambassador. Earth will stand ready. As the connection ended, Ilara exhaled sharply. Protocol Hammerfall was humanity's contingency plan for galactic betrayal. It meant mobilizing Earth's hidden defenses, activating covered alliances, and preparing for the unthinkable: open war with the Galactic Council. Before she could take another breath, the door to her office slid open with a faint hiss. Standing in the doorway was Gandor, the Arctan ambassador to Earth. His bioluminescent skin shifted in swirling patterns of orange and blue, colors Ilara had learned to recognize as anxiety. The Council requests your presence for an emergency session, Xandor said, his voice low but tense. Ilara nodded, masking her turmoil. Thank you, Xandor. I'll be there shortly. As soon as he left, her calm facade cracked. Ilara's mind raced as she considered her options. She was one of humanity's few representatives in the Council, and if she didn't play her cards right, humanity's destruction could be sealed before she even left the chamber. But there was one thing the Council had underestimated: Earth's resilience. Ilara activated another secure line, this time to Admiral Kalen, the commander of Earth's fleet. Admiral, we're activating Project Vanguard, she said, her tone steely. There was a pause on the other end before Kalen responded, his voice calm but laced with gravity. Understood. I'll oversee the deployment myself. Are we initiating Phase 1? Yes. The Council's betrayal is imminent. We can't afford to wait. Project Vanguard was Earth's greatest secret. Hidden within the asteroid belt, a fleet of advanced warships lay dormant, equipped with technology that surpassed even the most advanced Council designs. These ships, codenamed Vanguard, were humanity's ace in the hole, a deterrent that could tilt the scales in their favor if war broke out. As the line disconnected, Ilara straightened her uniform and steeled herself. The council chamber awaited, and with it, the first battle in a war humanity had not sought, but was now forced to fight. Shadows in the council chamber. The Galactic Council chamber was a marvel of alien architecture, a circular amphitheater suspended in zero gravity. Holographic projections of each representative floated around the perimeter, shimmering in every conceivable color. The sheer diversity of species, slithering Crintax, towering Novari, translucent Tellians, was a reminder of the galaxy's vastness. But for Ambassador Ilara Solis, none of it inspired awe today. Her gaze was locked on the Torvan delegation seated across the chamber, their reptilian eyes unblinking and cold. The emergency session had been called under the guise of addressing an external threat to galactic unity. It was a clever smokescreen, Ilara thought bitterly. The real agenda was far darker. Ambassadors, the council speaker began, his multitonal voice reverberating through the chamber. The speaker was Aurelian, his gelatinous form pulsing in rhythm with his words. We convene today to discuss the growing aggression of humanity, a species whose recent actions threaten the delicate balance of our alliance. Ilara's blood ran cold. The betrayal was unfolding faster than she had anticipated. Humanity wasn't the aggressor here, but the scapegoat. She leaned forward, activating her projection. Her image flickered into view, her sharp, determined features standing out against the sea of alien faces. With respect, Speaker, I must object to this characterization, Ilara said, her voice steady but firm. Humanity has adhered to every council mandate, often at great cost to ourselves. If there are accusations, I demand specifics. The speaker's form quivered, a gesture Ilara recognized as annoyance. Before he could respond, General Raxer of the Torvan Empire rose to his full height, his crimson scales catching the light. The Torvans were infamous for their arrogance, and Raxer embodied it fully. Ambassador Solis, Raxer hissed, his voice low and menacing. Humanity's innocence is a convenient lie. Your recent military expansions near the Outer Rim are proof enough of your intent to disrupt the peace. Ilara's jaw tightened. The Outer Rim was home to Earth's mining colonies, critical for their survival, but hardly an offensive threat. Yet she knew that logic would not sway Raxer or his allies. Our expansions are purely for resource sustainability, Ilara replied, meeting Raxer's gaze without flinching. If the Council wishes, we can provide full transparency on our operations. The chamber buzzed with muted conversations, alien languages overlapping in a chaotic symphony. Ilara could see the doubt and mistrust in their holographic forms. The Council had already been poisoned against humanity. As the debate continued, Ilara's neural implant buzzed softly, a discreet message. She glanced at the interface embedded in her wrist. It was from Xandor, the Arctan ambassador who had summoned her earlier. Xandor, meet me in Sub-Chamber Delta after the session. I have information you need. Ilara's heart raced. Xandor was one of the few allies humanity had left in the Council, and if he was risking this communication, it had to be critical. She sent a brief acknowledgement and refocused on the debate. The session dragged on for hours, with accusations piling against humanity. Despite her best efforts, Ilara could feel the tide turning against her. The final blow came when Raxer presented a fabricated intelligence report showing supposed human warships on a direct course for Torvan space. This aggression cannot be ignored, Raxer declared, slamming his clawed hand on the podium. The Torvan Empire demands immediate sanctions against humanity, including the cessation of their military activities and the disbandment of their fleet. The speaker turned to Ilara, his tone neutral but expectant. Ambassador Solis, how does humanity respond to these allegations? Ilara stood, her holographic form flickering as she spoke. The so-called evidence presented by the Torvan Empire is nothing more than a fabrication, a ploy to undermine humanity's position in this council. I urge my fellow ambassadors to consider the implications of condemning a member species based on such dubious claims. Her word hung in the air, but she could see that they had little effect. The alliances within the council were too deeply entrenched. The session ended with no definitive resolution, but the message was clear. Humanity was on the brink of becoming a galactic pariah. A meeting in the shadows. Subchamber Delta was a stark contrast to the grandiose council chamber. Hidden deep within the station's core, it was dimly lit and devoid of decoration, a place for clandestine meetings. Ilara arrived to find Sandor waiting, his bioluminescent patterns dimmed to avoid detection. "You've seen the truth now," Sandor said without preamble. "The council has already decided your fate. The Torvin deal is finalized." Ilara's fists clenched. "So it's true. They're sacrificing us to save themselves." Xander nodded, his expression grave. "But it's worse than you know. The Torvins have no intention of honoring the agreement. Once humanity is neutralized, they will turn on the council itself. By the time anyone realizes, it will be too late." The revelation hit Ilara like a physical blow. The council's betrayal wasn't just about humanity. It was a prelude to their own destruction. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, her voice softer. Xander's patterns shifted, reflecting sadness. "Because I believe in humanity. Your species has something the others have lost, a will to fight, to survive against impossible odds. If anyone can stop the Torvins, it's you." Ilara felt a surge of determination. "Then help us. Give me the information I need to expose them." Xandor hesitated before handing her a data crystal. "This contains classified council communications and Torvin plans. It's dangerous for both of us, but it might be your only chance." Ilara accepted the crystal, her mind racing. "What about you? If they find out?" "They won't," Xandor interrupted. "My life is a small price to pay for the galaxy's survival." Before Ilara could respond, Sandor placed a hand on her shoulder. "Go. Humanity doesn't have much time." As Ilara returned to her quarters, the weight of the data crystal in her hand felt immense. The evidence could expose the council's betrayal and the Torvin threat, but it also painted a target on her back. Back in her secure quarters, she activated the crystal, the holographic interface filling the room with streams of encrypted data. The contents were damning. Explicit agreements between the Council and the Torvins, detailed plans for the annexation of human territories, and even schematics of Torvin invasion fleets. Ilara leaned back, her mind whirling. The betrayal was deeper than she had imagined, but the evidence gave her hope. Humanity wasn't defenseless, and now they had the truth on their side. The battle for survival had begun, and Ilara Solis was ready to lead it. The spark of rebellion. The Galactic Council's space station shimmered like a jewel against the backdrop of a million stars, but Ilara Solis could feel the rot beneath its polished surface. In her secure quarters, she pored over the data Xandor had given her. Every file was a thread in a web of deceit, each revelation more damning than the last. The Torvins had planned their coup with surgical precision, exploiting humanity's vulnerabilities while simultaneously undermining the Council's authority. But the most shocking discovery lay buried in an encrypted folder. As Ilara decrypted it, her breath caught. The Torvins weren't merely planning to neutralize humanity. They intended to enslave it. The schematics showed massive orbital processing stations designed to strip Earth of its natural resources and harvest its people for labor. It was genocide disguised as diplomacy. Ilara's hands trembled as she closed the file. The weight of responsibility bore down on her like a star collapsing into itself. This wasn't just about humanity's survival. It was about resisting a force that sought to extinguish their light entirely. But how could she fight an empire as vast and powerful as the Torvins? The Council was complicit, and humanity's fleet, though capable, was spread thin across the galaxy. She needed allies. Her neural implant buzzed softly, a reminder of the secret meeting she had arranged with Admiral Tobias Kane, commander of Earth's defense fleet. The timing was risky, but there was no alternative. The hidden blade. The meeting took place aboard the Resolute, humanity's flagship stationed near the station's perimeter. The Resolute was a testament to human ingenuity, its sleek, angular design bristling with state-of-the-art weaponry. As Ilara boarded the ship, she was greeted by Admiral Kane, a towering figure with graying hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Ilara," Kane said, his voice gruff but warm. "You've stirred up quite the storm at the council. What's this about?" Ilara wasted no time, handing him the data crystal. "This is what they're planning, Tobias. The council has sold us out to the Torvins. They're going to use us as their scapegoat, and then erase us entirely." Kane inserted the crystal into the ship's main console, his sharp blue eyes scanning the holographic projections that filled the room. As the evidence unfolded, his expression darkened. "Damn them," he muttered, slamming a fist on the console. "We've bled for this alliance, sacrificed our people to protect their borders, and this is how they repay us." Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "This isn't just about humanity, Tobias. The Torvins plan to dismantle the entire council once we're out of the way. If we fall, the galaxy falls." Kane nodded, his jaw set. "What do you need from me?" "We need to mobilize the fleet," Ilara said. "Not for open war. At least, not yet. We need a show of strength to buy time and gather support. And I need your help finding allies within the council." Kane crossed his arms, considering her words. "It's a risky gamble, Ilara. If we move too soon, we'll give the Torvins the excuse they need to attack." "I know," she replied. "But if we wait, they'll crush us before we can even fight back. We have to take the initiative." Kane nodded slowly. "All right. I'll mobilize the fleet under the guise of routine maneuvers. But if we're going to find allies, we'll need more than just evidence. We'll need a spark, something to rally them behind." The spark. Ilara knew what Kane meant. Evidence alone wouldn't sway the council, especially when fear and self-preservation ruled their decisions. They needed a dramatic gesture, an act of defiance that would force the galaxy to pay attention. Her thoughts turned to the Outer Rim colonies, where humanity's mining operations were already under scrutiny. The Torvins had used these colonies as the centerpiece of their fabricated narrative, portraying them as a threat to galactic stability. What if we turned their narrative against them? Ilara said aloud, her mind racing. Kane raised an eyebrow. "Go on. If we stage a humanitarian intervention at one of our own colonies, something that shows we're not the aggressors they claim we are, it could force the Council to reconsider. And it would send a message to the galaxy that we won't go quietly." Kane nodded slowly. "It's a bold move. Do you have a specific colony in mind?" Ilara pulled up a holographic map of the Outer Rim. "Serenex 4. It's one of our largest mining colonies, but it's been struggling with pirate raids for months. If we launch a relief mission and secure the colony, we can frame it as an act of solidarity, not aggression." Kane grinned for the first time. "You've always been good at turning the tables, Ilara. I'll dispatch the Resolute and a few support ships to Serenex 4, but you'll need to lead the mission. The Council will be watching, and your presence will lend it legitimacy." Ilara hesitated for only a moment. She had spent years in the political arena, but now she would have to step onto the battlefield. "I'll do it," she said finally. "We'll show the galaxy what humanity is truly made of." The battle for Serenex 4. The journey to Serenex 4 was tense, the fleet traveling under the cover of a mining convoy to avoid detection. As they approached the colony, Ilara stood on the bridge of the Resolute, her heart pounding. Serenex 4 was a desolate world, its surface scarred by mining operations and pirate attacks. As the fleet entered orbit, they were greeted by a distress signal from the colony's governor. "Ambassador Solus, Admiral Kane. Thank the stars you're here," the governor said, his voice shaky. "The pirates have blockaded our main supply routes and taken hostages in the mining outpost. We're barely holding on." Ilara turned to Kane. "We have to move quickly. If we let this escalate, the Torvins will use it as ammunition against us." Kane nodded. "We'll deploy ground forces to secure the hostages and eliminate the pirates. But the real challenge will be breaking the blockade. Ilara took a deep breath. I'll join the ground team. If the council is watching, they need to see me leading from the front. Kane's expression darkened, but he didn't argue. Then I'll handle the blockade. Good luck down there, Ilara. The descent to Serenex 4 was harrowing. The transport ship buffeted by anti-aircraft fire from the pirate stronghold. Ilara's heart raced as she clutched her blaster, the weight of the mission pressing down on her. The ground team, a mix of soldiers and miners who had volunteered to fight, landed just outside the mining outpost. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burning metal. As they moved toward the outpost, Ilara's comm crackled. "Ambassador, we've got eyes on the hostages," said Lieutenant Merrick, the team leader. "They're being held in the central processing plant, but the pirates have fortified the area." Ilara gritted her teeth. "We'll have to outflank them. Use the mining tunnels to get behind their position." The plan was risky, but it worked. The team infiltrated the tunnels and launched a surprise attack on the pirates, freeing the hostages in a swift, coordinated assault. As the last pirate fell, Ilara helped an injured miner to his feet. "You're safe now," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Above them, the Resolute engaged the pirate fleet, its advanced weaponry cutting through the blockade with surgical precision. By the time the battle ended, Serenex 4 was secure, and humanity had proven its resolve. A new hope. Back on the Resolute, Ilara stood on the bridge as the crew cheered their victory. But her mind was already on the next step. The battle for Serenex 4 was just the beginning. With the evidence from Xandor and the success of the mission, Ilara had the tools to rally humanity, and perhaps even the galaxy, against the Torvan threat. The spark had been lit. Now, it was time to fan the flames. The galaxy watches. The fallout from the Serenex 4 mission rippled across the galaxy like a solar flare. For the first time in years, humanity had seized control of its narrative. News of the successful intervention spread rapidly through galactic networks, sparking debates across council planets. The heroic rescue of hostages, the dismantling of the pirate blockade, and Ilara Solis's visible leadership all painted a very different picture than the one the Torvans had been selling. The Torvan delegation was furious. Their attempts to spin the Serenex 4 mission as an act of military posturing were met with skepticism. Even council factions that had long been indifferent to humanity's plight began to question the Torvans' motives. But Ilara knew this was only the beginning. While Serenex 4 had been a victory, it was also a warning. The Torvans would retaliate. The Hidden Alliance. Back on the council station, Ilara worked tirelessly, reaching out to potential allies in secret. The data Xandor had provided wasn't just evidence of the Torvan plot. It also revealed cracks in their alliances. One name stood out: Velkesh, a senior diplomat from the Zer Collective. The Zer were a technologically advanced but fiercely isolationist species, known for their neutrality in galactic conflicts. According to the files, the Torvans had been pressuring the Zer to join their campaign against humanity, but Velkesh had resisted. Ilara saw an opportunity. If she could bring the Zer into humanity's fold, it would shift the balance of power in the council. The meeting with Velkesh took place in the shadowed corridors of the station's lower levels, away from prying eyes. Velkesh was an imposing figure, his silver-scaled skin reflecting the dim light. His crimson eyes studied Ilara with a mix of curiosity and caution. "You've taken quite the risk reaching out to me, Ambassador Solis," Velkesh said, his voice a low rumble. "What makes you think the Zer would align with humanity?" Ilara met his gaze, unflinching. "Because we're fighting for the same thing. Survival. The Torvans aren't just targeting humanity. They're consolidating power to dominate the galaxy. If they succeed with us, the Zer will be next." Velkesh tilted his head, considering her words. "You speak boldly, but words alone will not sway my people. The Zer value action over rhetoric." Ilara nodded. "Then let me show you. Come to Serenex 4. See what we've accomplished." and review the data I've provided. If you still doubt our cause, I won't press you further." Velkish's eyes narrowed, but after a long pause, he nodded. "Very well, Ambassador. I will consider your proposal. But know this, if the Zair are to fight, we fight to win. Anything less is unacceptable." A message in blood. As Ilara worked to secure alliances, the Torvins struck back. Their retaliation came in the form of a brutal attack on Juris 9, a small but strategic human colony on the edge of the Outer Rim. Unlike Serenex 4, Juris 9 had no defenses, and the Torvins exploited this weakness mercilessly. By the time the distress signal reached the Resolute, the colony was already in flames. The Torvins had left no survivors. The attack wasn't about resources or strategy. It was a message. Ilara stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the holographic images of the devastation. The sight of charred buildings and lifeless bodies turned her stomach, but she refused to let her grief show. "This was meant to intimidate us," she said, her voice steely. "But we won't be cowed. Every life lost on Juris 9 will be a rallying cry." Admiral Kane nodded grimly. "The fleet's ready to respond. Just say the word." Into the Torvin heart. The coalition had grown into a formidable force, but the challenge ahead was daunting. The planetary disruptor, located deep within the Torvin core systems, was an unprecedented threat. It was not just a weapon. It was a declaration that the Torvins were willing to annihilate entire worlds to maintain their dominance. Ilara Solis stood in the Coalition's war chamber, a vast, circular room aboard the Resolute. Holograms of various Coalition leaders flickered around her. Admiral Kane stood by her side, a constant presence of calm strength. "The disruptor is located on Torgith Prime, the heart of the Torvin Empire," Ilara began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "It's protected by their most advanced fleet and planetary defenses. This mission will not be easy, but it is necessary. If the Torvins deploy this weapon, Earth, and countless other worlds, will be lost." Velkesh Dral of the Zair Collective spoke up, his deep, resonant voice filling the chamber. "You're asking us to storm the heart of the Empire. Even with the Coalition's combined forces, the odds are slim." Ilara met his gaze. "Slim, yes, but not impossible. The Torvins don't expect us to strike at their core. They see us as reactive, defensive. This mission will catch them off guard." A Kordath warrior, General Rockfor, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "The Kordath live for challenges like this. Our warriors are ready." The Orlan representative, a soft-spoken engineer named Luray, chimed in. "Our upgrades to your fleet are nearly complete. Your ships will be faster, stealthier, and more resilient than ever before. But even so, this mission will require precision and coordination." Admiral Kane stepped forward. "We have a plan. A small strike team will infiltrate the disruptor facility to disable it from within. Meanwhile, the Coalition fleet will engage the Torvin forces to draw their attention. It's a high-risk operation, but it's our best shot." Ilara took a deep breath. "I'll lead the strike team." The room fell silent. Velkesh raised an eyebrow. "You're a diplomat, not a soldier." "I'm also the face of this coalition," Ilara replied. "If we succeed, it will show the galaxy that we're willing to put everything on the line for our cause. And if we fail, well, I won't ask anyone to risk their life for something I'm not willing to die for myself." The infiltration. The strike team consisted of Ilara, Admiral Kane, Velkesh Dral, and a hand-picked group of elite soldiers from the Coalition's ranks. Their mission: infiltrate the disruptor facility, disable its defenses, and destroy it. The Shadowblade, a Zair stealth ship, carried them through Torvin space. Its advanced cloaking technology rendered it nearly invisible, but every moment was tense. The Torvin fleet patrolled their territory with ruthless efficiency, and one mistake could expose them. As the Shadowblade approached Torgith Prime, Ilara gazed at the planet through the viewport. It was a harsh, industrial world, its surface covered in sprawling cities and massive factories. The disruptor facility was located deep within one of these industrial zones, heavily fortified and shielded. "Once we're in, we'll have limited time," Admiral Kane said, his voice low. "The disruptor's core is powered by a fusion reactor. If we can overload it, the entire facility will go up." Velkesh nodded. "The Zair have prepared a device for that purpose, but we'll need to reach the core first." The team donned their gear, lightweight armor designed for mobility, with advanced communication systems and stealth capabilities. Ilara felt the weight of the mission settle on her shoulders, but she pushed her fear aside. As they descended toward the planet in a small dropship, Ilara's mind raced. The Coalition fleet would begin their diversionary assault soon, drawing the Torvan forces away from the facility. But the strike team would be on their own. The labyrinth of steel. The disruptor facility was a sprawling complex of steel and energy, its towers bristling with weapons and shield generators. The strike team moved swiftly through the shadows, their movements silent and precise. Torvan soldiers patrolled the area, their crimson armor gleaming in the dim light. The strike team avoided them where they could, taking down isolated guards with quiet efficiency. Ilara's heart pounded as they approached the facility's central tower. This was where the disruptor's core was located, a massive, pulsating structure of energy conduits and fusion reactors. As they entered the tower, the team encountered their first major obstacle, a series of security checkpoints, each guarded by heavily armed Torvans. Velkesh took the lead, his Zair engineering expertise proving invaluable. With deft movements, he hacked into the security systems, disabling alarms and unlocking doors. But progress was slow, and every second increased the risk of detection. Admiral Kane kept the team focused. "Stay sharp. Once we're at the core, it'll be a straight fight. Be ready for anything." The core. The core chamber was a sight to behold. Massive conduits of energy pulsed with a blinding blue light, the hum of the fusion reactor filling the air. The disruptor's control console sat at the center of the chamber, guarded by an elite Torvan unit. Ilara signaled the team to spread out. The plan was simple: create a distraction while Velkesh and Luray planted the overload device on the reactor. The battle that followed was intense and chaotic. The Torvan guards were relentless, their advanced weaponry forcing the team to fight with every ounce of skill and determination they had. Ilara found herself in the thick of the fight, her pulse rifle blazing as she took cover behind a console. She wasn't a soldier, but desperation and adrenaline sharpened her reflexes. "Device is almost ready," Velkesh shouted over the comm. "Hold them off," Admiral Kane barked, his voice calm but commanding. As the team fought, Ilara caught sight of a Torvan officer moving toward Velkesh. Without thinking, she broke cover and charged, tackling the officer before he could strike. They grappled on the ground, the officer's strength nearly overwhelming her, but she managed to grab her knife and disable him. "Device is set," Velkesh yelled. "We need to move." Admiral Kane activated his comm. "All units, fall back. The core's going critical." The team retreated, racing through the facility as alarms blared. The overload device had triggered a chain reaction in the reactor, and the entire structure was moments away from destruction. The escape. As the strike team emerged from the facility, they were met with a squadron of Torvan soldiers. Outnumbered and outgunned, they prepared for a last stand. But just as the Torvans closed in, a barrage of laser fire erupted from above. The Shadow Blade swooped in, its weapons tearing through the enemy. The dropship descended, its ramp open. "Get on board," the pilot shouted. The team scrambled onto the dropship as the ground beneath them began to quake. The reactor's explosion sent shockwaves through the facility, and the strike team barely escaped as the entire structure collapsed in a blinding flash of light. A Pyrrhic victory. The destruction of the disruptor was a monumental victory, but it came at a cost. The Coalition fleet had suffered heavy losses in the diversionary assault, and the Torvans were now fully aware of humanity's resistance. Back aboard the Resolute, Ilara addressed the coalition leaders. We've struck a blow against the Torvins, but this war is far from over. They'll retaliate with everything they have. We must be ready. Velkash stepped forward. The Zair stand with you, Ilara. Your courage has shown us what's possible. Admiral Kane nodded. This is just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy that the Torvins can be challenged. Now, we need to build on this momentum. As Ilara looked out at the stars, she knew the fight ahead would be even harder. But for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity was no longer alone.